Welcome to the 3 Life Lessons podcast, where I, Rob Hubbard, talk to renowned figures from learning and development to uncover the secrets to their success and find out what makes them tick. Remember to like, subscribe and follow to ensure that you never miss an episode. So I'm delighted to have here today with me DeGani. So Asi and I know each other from conferences, basically, for many years. I've seen you at conferences, I've attended sessions that you've chaired, I've seen you speak at conferences, and quite often we'll have a chat at various points. And conferences, they are noisy, busy environments, there's lots of things going on, and always you are like an island of calm in the middle of this, so you seem very kind of tranquil and collected, and this is what I'm really interested to explore. Because I always think there's somebody that knows their mind. You don't get distracted by all of the noise and the razzmatazz and all of that. You just seem to be, your place, your mind, calm and collected. So I'm going to be fascinated, Asi, to see if your 3 life lessons reflect this, or are you the swan that glides along on top with the legs underneath going like frantically paddling like this. So this is going to be really interesting. So Asi DeGani, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you. I'll definitely be doing some paddling.
All good. So, well, first of all, my first question then is, what's the role that you're in at the moment, and can you tell us a bit about your kind of route to get there?
So I'm the Director of Skills and Talent Development at the London Stock Exchange Group. We are roughly 26,000 employees around the world, and I mean everywhere. We still find countries, we have 3 people in, and I'm surprised by that. A very, very interesting organization, very badly named because most of our people are not actually in London, and most of what we do has nothing to do with the stock exchange. I mean, it has to do with the stock exchange, but the stock exchange component is relatively small if you talk about the number of people. It's a very interesting organization which is both very young, because it is the result of a merger from about 4 years ago, but also very old because the origins of the stock exchange are about 350 years ago. So there are a lot of contradictions in there. But one of the things that is completely clear is this component of employees and the focus on people. We don't have any resources. We don't have coal mines or gold mines or whatever. We rely on our people to produce the gold. And in that respect, we are focusing a lot on how to support those people in their growth, how to make sure that we're making the most of the talents. That's where the skills component comes in, and the talent development. And it's a very interesting job. I'm not going to lie. I'm also very lucky to have an amazing team working with me. With the history of it and how I ended up where I ended up, I sometimes ask myself the same question. Originally, most people don't know this, the plan was being a photographer. And I'll chuck even more there. A war photographer was the original plan.
Wow.
I think, as a teenager, I think very quickly I realized what that would mean, and I had some made better life choices, and ended up on the vendor side of the corporate learning world, which saw me work in a lot of places. I mean, as you can tell from my white hair, been around for a bit, so been through some internet bubbles and a lot of things, but I've worked in a lot of countries on specific projects with a lot of organizations, some of them better known, some of them not well known. But that was interesting, and I reached a point where I said, okay, so on the vendor side, you work towards something, the signature on the dotted line typically, and then you hand it over to the team that executes or builds or delivers or whatever. But actually what was interesting to me is what happens afterwards. So I started looking into roles on the other side, and I was very lucky in 2013 to get a role in O2, which was the opportunity to move from the vendor side to the corporate side. And that where my second career started, which is corporate learning on the corporate side, not on the vendor side. And from there, I think for me it was a gradual doing a local UK job with a team that was focusing on the UK people. O2 back then was about 10,000 employees with all of the adjacents, and we provided a service, and gradually climb over to global roles with big organizations. I think in terms of numbers, the biggest was doing a global role at BT, and then focusing on things as they were interesting to me. I am very opportunistic.
I noticed that looking at your LinkedIn, the time that you spend. I wonder if, well, actually, no, I'm not gonna ruin it and say I wonder if you're like me. I'm going to wait and see what your 3 life lessons are, and perhaps we can circle back to that at the end. So, well, Assi, what's the first life lesson that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I think the first life lesson, to a degree, connects to what you mentioned before, which is take things in proportion. One of the companies that I was at was going through a RIF process, a redundancy in force. Most of us know this terms. It's when some people are made redundant, which basically is thank you for your services. They are no longer needed. And I think that the division that I was in was affected. And I walked into a room and had a question or something, and one of the young people turned around and said, "You are the calmest person I know. I mean, don't you care?" I said, "Of course I care, but it's not going to change. The only thing that I will give vibes of I'm worried. It's the serenity or the ability to accept things that I cannot change while working to change them. I think the calmness for me has a lot to do with taking things in proportion. People will come and, "Oh, I had a horrible day." You had a horrible day, or did you have 5 minutes which were not to your liking and now you're milking it? It's all about, for me, it's all about proportion. Let's think about it. And don't get me wrong, I definitely get upset and get emotional, sad, whatever it is. I don't think you should be without emotions. What I think is you should take things in proportion. And sometimes think that that is horrible. I have a stain on my new shirt or whatever it is. So you take it off and you put another one on and you keep on going. It's better for you and better for the environment.
Yeah. So kind of counting your blessings, really, when there's these challenges, thinking about those things that actually, out of that day, the 97% of things that actually went really well versus the 3 to 5% that you're unhappy with.
I think one of the tricks, or one of the things that I used to do when things were rough, and again, everything in proportion. My rough is probably something that somebody else would say, I would love it to be that hard or that hard. I would sit down in the evening just before going to bed and say, okay, focus on this objectively. What happened today? Good, bad? Okay. What am I going to do about it? The fact of the matter is that our brains are geared to focus on the negativity because you need to solve problems. If something's good, then it's good. There's nothing to do about it. Just enjoy. But because of how we are built, we are focused on solving the problem. I need to make sure that things are better, that I have food, that shelter, and so on. The good things, we just enjoy them. So we don't always focus on the good things, but actually, especially if you look at the reality that we live in today, and I'm talking about people like yourself, like myself, there's a lot of good. So make sure that you force yourself to focus on it.
Yeah. I think that's a brilliant life lesson. That's definitely one that I would like to learn myself. I'm a kind of natural born pessimist, unfortunately. And
I'm with you. I'm completely with you.
Yeah. Well, I love that first life lesson. That's one that I'm definitely going to work upon myself. So, Assi, what's lesson number 2?
One of the things I've learned from that switch of careers, moving from the vendor side to the corporate side, is the fact that everybody has their value, everybody has their time. I remember being on the vendor side. You try to get in front of somebody because what you have is the best thing since sliced bread, and they really need it because it will make them the hero of the organization. Blah 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 blah, and they don't even bother answering your email. And that's, even if it is a thank you, that's not relevant right now. I don't care about this. This is a horrible, whatever it is a response. And I think today, if I get a request on LinkedIn, and I'm going to regret saying this in a second, but if I get a request on LinkedIn which somebody has written, so I don't mean just click on the connect and then you get the sales pitch, I will always respond, again within reason, say thank you for that, we're not interested, or we already work with somebody else, whatever it is. And I think to me that extends into something that's slightly different, and I do a lot with my kids, which is make sure that you connect to the world of the person that you are talking to. We have, we have our problems, and we have our context, and we can talk about ourselves till the cows come home, and probably more than that. But that would be very, very ineffective in connecting, because if I tell you about me, then you know about me in my context. But if I want to connect to you, then I need to talk either about you or connect what I'm saying to you. And that to me means everything like, I want to connect with my kids. Great, go play the games they're playing. Go watch the TV that they're watching. One of the things that I did with my daughter is always find something that we're both interested to watch on TV. With my son, it's a game. I'll openly admit I couldn't connect to Minecraft. It just, everything's cubes. But we did find other games. And we do play them. Subnautica was a big hit for those of you who know it.
Yeah.
So, but it opens up opportunity to talk about what's scary, what's creative, what's interesting, and it's also a very good game. Put a finger in the world of the person that you're talking to. And it works at work as well. You can talk about, we have learning objectives, and we do this in e-learning, and we have SCORM, and the business individual goes, okay, no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. So it's about kind of meeting people where they are, isn't it? It's like taking the time to empathise and understand about that person, and to learn a bit about them, which you think, all of us in learning and development roles, of course, that's what everybody would love to do. But then kind of that meeting them where they are. Yeah, I love that. Yeah,
it's my wife always makes fun of me because I told her I would never sing when we were about to have kids. And then not only do I sing, not please don't ask, but one of the things that I found was that, especially with, when they were young, some of the TV series are very engrossing. So now I'm probably not going to remember anything, but Octonauts being an example. So all the characters and the theme song. And I remember walking my daughter to school, singing the theme songs, and she would have to guess which show it's from. I probably shouldn't have said that while we were recording.
Yeah. So this is going to be my mission now. I think I see you at a conference. I'll have to gauge when you've had just enough numbers of beers. I am actually putting together a jamming band for a conference, so perhaps you'll come along and be the vocalist. So
one of the things, this is not a life lesson, but one of the things that I do is I know what I'm good at, and I know what I am not good at. If there is one thing that I'm not good at, is anything that relates to music. I can change channels on Google, I can tell Google to play something else, but no, music, really no. Just no. I don't have the musical ear or the voice or anything of the sort.
Well, I thought I was the same up until I was 15, and then I started playing drums, and then music has just been a huge part of my life, like just completely shaped my life from then. And I literally, nobody else musical in my family, never thought I was remotely musical at all, and over a period of time really changed. Anyway, that's one for another conversation, but I'm really interested to get onto your third and final life lesson.
Hugging. Hugging is the third life lesson, and the reason I say hugging is I would normally say work in partnership, but I don't think that's what I do. I think hugging is a better representation of what I've learned, which is, that motion of bringing somebody in. If you have stepped into their world, then you know what is important to them, and then it's a lot easier to bring them closer. With the assumption, and there are of course exceptions, but with the assumption that we all want to make our environment a better place, us a better person, and so on, it's a lot easier to do that when you say, okay, I understand what's important to you, now let me help you. Now, you'll see me a lot of times complain about stop talking about difficult conversations and talk about honest conversations. To me, that's all part of this hugging philosophy, which is I want to keep you close. To do that, I'm giving you honest feedback. I'm having honest conversations because of the place that I come from, which is a place of caring. I want you to be in a better place. Now, I will be honest, when I run into somebody who doesn't matter what I try and do, doesn't play ball, I do get frustrated. And it doesn't always work. There will be people who, I'm your adversary, I'm on the other side of you, and it doesn't matter what you do, I will be confrontational. Okay. But yeah, that's hugging is definitely the third lesson, and there are a lot of ways that you can use that in both personal life and in work life. Just for the sake of the recording and whoever is watching it, I do not mean physical. Don't make me in the lawsuit. But as he said, you should be hugging. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. I mean that takes a lot of kind of trust in yourself and openness, because you by definition you're opening yourself up to a relationship with somebody else there. And most people, I think, are really, really good people and trying to do the right things. And sometimes people are doing the wrong things or being driven by, things that you don't understand into harmful behaviours, harmful for themselves, harmful for others.
Yeah.
So how does that work with the kind of hugging thing? Because you're making yourself a bit vulnerable there, maybe? Well, how do you manage that?
Well, with the assumption that the other side wants to do the same, at least to a degree, you have to assume a positive intent. Now, it doesn't always work, but one of the things that I really enjoy working in the UK is that in general, the approach is I will trust you until you give me a reason not to. I've worked in other parts of the world where it's exactly the opposite. I will not trust you until you give me a reason to. That's not easy. It takes a lot of energy to be suspicious. It takes a lot of energy to expect the other side to have ill intents towards you. It is, of course, a self-fulfilling prophecy, unfortunately. And you can see that on the news, you can see that anywhere else. If you're assuming the worst of the other side, they will rise to the occasion. I think you need to... That place of honesty is, look, this is what I'm trying to achieve. I think this will work better for us if... the other side might say, oh, now I understand. Yeah, absolutely. They might say, well, actually, if you do that, this is going to be... The whole scenario of politics in the workplace, oh my God. Again, so tedious. And not always beneficial to... Well, actually, not always beneficial to anyone.
Yeah. 100% agree with that. It's just the level of internal politics that this is why we have our own little company, because we don't have to get involved in that. And I'm willfully, we work with large complex organisations, and in any big organisation you have people that get ahead by playing politics, and previous people that I've worked with would say how naive I would be, and it's like, no, I'm not naive. I know that it goes on. I just choose not to get engaged with it. It's like if doing the right thing in the right way and doing a good job isn't enough, and you have to kind of do all these machinations and all of this, it's like that's not the right environment for us. You see it in a lot of organisations, unfortunately. The sort of current climate around uncertainty for people's roles, cost cutting and things like that can really drive some of these kind of behaviours as well, which I think is a great shame.
I was delivering a session once, supporting the delivery of a virtual session in one of the rooms. and it was for very senior executives in that organization, and one of them had a problem with their laptop or something, and I remember trying to fix it, and I said, let me try this, let me try that. And I apologize because I was faffing around, and I said, I'm really sorry, I'm in that helping mode just to make sure that everything goes well for the session. And she turned around and said, you should really stop doing that. You'll never get anywhere if you help people. That was a life lesson there, right there.
Yeah.
I think the life lesson there was you probably shouldn't stay in a place where you're told something like that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, unfortunately, some of the people that make it to the top because they're the ones with the sharpest elbows and the best at looking out for themselves, not necessarily the best at sharing and looking out for others. You're I agree.
Standing on the shoulders or other bits and pieces of other people. For me, the personal evaluation has always been, can I point to people who are better off because they knew me? Not millions, but there's a few that I think that I'm comfortable saying, yeah, that person are better off because they knew me.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Asi. 3 wonderful life lessons there from you. And I'm glad to say as well that impression that I've had of you in our meetings over the years is 100% backed up by your life lessons. And I've just got to say, I'm looking forward to our hug when I see you next time.
I'm shaking under the camera.
Very good. Well, Asi DeGani, you've been a brilliant 3 life lessons guest. Thank you. If you've enjoyed learning those 3 life lessons, then make sure that you like, subscribe and follow so that you never miss an episode.